Okay, today I'm at my assembly table and I've got this little 6-inch vise that I want to mount to one corner. Now I went ahead and I've milled up some red oak for the jaw liners, and we'll get those installed before we actually mount the vise onto the table. Now also I've got some dogs that I ordered, and they're made by Craig. I want to drill some holes in my tabletop for these to fit into. They're 3/4 inch. And they feature what they call bench breaks. These little rubber insert, they'll pop out, and you can use these in the dog holes themselves, or you can use these in the top of the dog. And all they're really for is just for a non-slip, non-marking work surface for your workpiece. So the first thing I need to do is just go ahead and get these jaw liners installed, and then we'll mount the vise to the table, and then we'll go ahead with the dog holes. And that should be all we need to do today. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is mount this jaw liner to the vise. I'm going to be referencing off these slides. The two outer holes that you see are the mounting holes that we're going to be using to mount it to the table. We'll just need to get the jaw liner centered to the vise. And then once we have it centered, we can mark the two holes to be mounted. Make sure our marks show up, and then we take it to the drill press. Now this drill bit that I'm using is just big enough for the screw to pass through. And we're drilling all the way through with this drill bit. Next, we'll take a Forstner bit and only drill halfway through the wood. And what this will allow is just the screw head to fit inside the hole and be recessed. I'm going to mark the holes on the edge of the table, pre-drill a couple of holes, and then we'll attach the liner to the vise for the screws and then install it onto the table. There are a couple of more hole locations on the bottom of this plate to allow you to mount securely to the bottom of the table. And I'm pre-drilling for those holes now, and I'll just go ahead and put in a couple of more screws. This table's kind of wobbly. It's not a traditional style workbench, it's just my outfit assembly table. Now I'm pre-drilling the hole locations for the other liner for the other side of the vise. And once I have those holes drilled, I can go ahead and mount the liner to the vise. And then once I have those screws installed, I can go ahead and reassemble the vise. Just make sure everything lines up. I'm going to run it all the way in, and then I'll run it all the way back out. And when I run it all the way out, I'm going to run it almost until it comes out. And I'm going to mark on this slide just to let me know I'm close to being to the end. This has got about a 3-inch clamping capacity. Nice and flush. Okay, I'm finding the center of the vise, and then I will find the distance from the center of the vise to the edge of the table with my combination square, and then I'll transfer the marks onto the tabletop where my dogs will be drilled. I'm using a fast cap flat back tape measure. Makes it easy to transfer your measurements. And I'm doing every 6 inches here. If I see that I need to do every 3 inches to get a closer location, I can go back and do that. And I'm gonna put some painter's tape over these locations, and I go back and mark these on top of the tape. I don't show it in the video, but I did this just in case I had some tear out from the Forstner bit. Now I'm gonna go ahead and drill my holes. I go all the way through the tabletop. Now I do hit a couple of 2x4s and I just drill down far enough for the dog to be able to set flush on the tabletop. Get it all cleaned up here, and I'll drill one final hole into the outermost liner. And this will allow me to put a dog there to be able to clamp whatever it is I'm working on. And I'll show you an example. Now there's several options that you can do. It's very versatile with dog holes and a vise, but I'm just clamping a piece of thin strip pine. Gonna hit it with a block plane just to kind of show you the idea. Now the next option that I'll show you is I've got a cutoff that came from the actual jaw liners that I'm using, so it's the exact size and width. And you just leave it a little bit higher than the top of the table. It kind of acts as a stop, and you can plane that way as well. Now these dogs have this rubber insert that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. You can take those out and just insert them into the dog holes themselves, and it acts like a non-slip work surface. Good for finishing or anything really. This is just a little stop motion clip that I put together for fun. Did not know how much work it takes to do one of these. Alright guys, that's it.